The relentless chime of my phone, slicing through the quiet of the Hamptons house, wasn't the unwelcome intrusion. The unwelcome intrusion had been the forecasted romantic weekend itself. A flimsy Band-Aid Landon had suggested over tense salads at Le Bernardine 2 weeks ago. We need to reconnect. Ellie. Just us. His smile hadn't reached his eyes, which kept darting to the Bloomberg terminal on the wall near our table. I'd agreed, not out of hope, but from the same weary professional courtesy I extended to opposing counsel dragging out a settled negotiation. I'd been in the sunroom, the February light weak and gray on the manicured lawn, sloping down to the frozen, dormant garden. My own tablet was alive with the complexities of the Mercer-Volkov merger, a deal worth more than this house and the Manhattan duplex combined. Landon had gone for a bracing walk along the beach over an hour ago, in a cashmere coat that cost more than my first car, no doubt contemplating the chill in his soul rather than the chill in the air. The phone was his, left charging on the granite kitchen island, buzzing and dancing with an incoming FaceTime call. The name that flashed, pulsating with a naive urgency, was Chloe VDW, Chloe Vanderval, first-year associate, 22, leggy, blonde, with the unearned confidence of old Greenwich money and a laugh that sounded like change rattling in a tin cup. She'd been assigned to Landon's team 3 months ago, a real go-getter, he'd said, popping a vitamin. Sharp. My hand hovered over the device. Attorney-client privilege didn't apply. Spousal privilege, however, was a contract currently under review. The call timed out. A second later, a voice message notification popped up, previewing the first few words. Just missing you so much. It's stupid. This weekend is dragging. I keep thinking about last. The preview text vanished, replaced by the locked screen. A cold, meticulous clarity settled over me, the kind that descended in a deposition when you know the witness is about to lie. I didn't touch his phone. I didn't need to. The evidence was circumstantial but compelling. The distant look, the manufactured, romantic gestures, the new cologne, the sudden interest in Pilates. I returned to the sunroom, but the merger documents were just glyphs on a screen. I was calculating. Instead, timelines, behavioral shifts, financial anomalies. I was building a case, without a client, for myself. The front door slammed 40 minutes later, bringing in a gust of cold air and Landon's expensive sandalwood and gilt scent. He was flushed, looking more energized than a beach walk in February could possibly account for. Hey, he said, not quite meeting my eye, heading straight for the Sub-Zero. He pulled out a bottle of San Pellegrino. Brutal out there. Winds coming right off the Atlantic. Did you have a good walk? My voice was neutral, the voice I used with junior partners presenting shaky arguments. Invigorating, he said, taking a long swig. He leaned against the island, finally looking at me. His gaze was performative, assessing. You've been working. You should unplug. That's the point of this. The point. I echoed. Right. His phone, now in his hand, lit up with a text. His thumb moved to dismiss it, but not before I saw the same 3 letters. Chloe. A muscle in his jaw twitched, a tell I remembered from the early days when he'd bluff in a settlement meeting. Everything okay at the office? I asked, knowing the answer. Oh, fine. Just Greg asking about the Henderson filings. I'll handle it later. He put the phone face down on the counter. A definitive gesture. Too definitive. Landon. He looked up, a flicker of impatience in his eyes. Yes. Eloan? We need to talk. He sighed, the long-suffering sigh of the perpetually interrupted. If this is about the Zurich trip, I told you, it's non-negotiable. The client demands. It's not about Zurich. I stood up, my bare feet cold on the wide plank oak. It's about us. It's about you coming to bed at 2 a.m. smelling like someone else's perfume. It's about you scheduling client dinners on nights the firm calendar is empty. It's about the diamond bracelet from Cartier that showed up on our Amex but isn't in my jewelry box. The color drained from his face, then rushed back in a blotchy red. The carefully constructed facade of the harried, dedicated partner crumbled, revealing the panicked boy underneath. For a long moment, he just stared. Then, the lawyer in him took over. The defense attorney. Are you spying on me? He accused, his voice low and tight. I'm observing. There's a difference. One is admissible. I cross my arms. Who is she? Landon? He set the water bottle down with a sharp clack. The performance of outrage was good. He'd learned from the best. From me. I don't believe this. After everything I'm dealing with. The pressure I'm under to provide this life for us. Provide? The word was a bullet. My name is on the partnership agreement next to yours. My book of business kept the lights on for the first 5 years. My relationships brought in Mercer, Volkov, Sterling Biotech. Don't you dare provide for me. He had the decency to look momentarily chastised, but the self-pity was a faster, stronger current. You see, this is what I mean. It's always a competition with you. Always the ledger. Can you ever just be my wife? Not my business associate? The shift was masterful. Reframe the infidelity as a response to my emotional shortcomings. I'd seen him do it to a witness on the stand once. It had been impressive then. Now, it was nauseating. So your solution to my alleged lack of wifely warmth is to fuck a first-year associate? My language, crude and direct, was meant to shock him out of his legalistic pivoting. It worked. His eyes widened. Don't be vulgar. Tell me I'm wrong. Silence, thick and suffocating, filled the space between us. He ran a hand through his artfully tousled hair, a gesture of supposed anguish. When he spoke again, the anger was gone, replaced by a chilling, rehearsed calm. Her name is Chloe Vanderval, and it's not what you think. Enlighten me. It's real. He looked at me now, and the performance was Oscar-worthy. A man burdened by truth. With you, Eloan, it's always been about the next case, the next deal, the next win, the firm, the money, the power. With Chloe, I feel seen. For me, not for what I can bill or bring in. She's a light. She's joy. She's young. Each word was a carefully placed scalpel. Light, joy, young, the antonyms of me, of us, of our life built on leveraged buyouts and prenups and 80-hour weeks. She's 22. Landon, she's a child. She's your subordinate. She's brilliant. He fired back, a defensive heat returning. And it's not about her age. It's about a connection you and I haven't had in years. If we ever did, we were a good team. Ellie, a great team. But that's all it ever was. A business arrangement with benefits. The dismissal of 15 years of shared struggles. Of scraping together capital for the firm. Of holding his hair back when he had food poisoning after a disastrous client dinner in Hong Kong. Of believing in him when his own family thought he was chasing a fool's dream with me. It was so absolute. It stole the air from the room. I want a divorce, he said, the words landing not with emotional weight, but with the finality of a judge's gavel. He'd practiced this. I'll be fair. You'll keep your shares. Of course. A reasonable settlement. But I want to move on. I want to start my life. With her. I stared at him. This man I had helped build. I saw the expensive watch I'd bought him for our 10th anniversary. The subtle shift of his eyes toward his phone again. The way he was already standing taller, unburdened by the confession. He was a man who had just passed a terrible, secret debt to someone else and felt lighter for it. A reasonable settlement. I repeated, my voice eerily quiet. It's the cleanest way. For both of us. You've always been so strong. Eloan, you'll be fine. This is just a new chapter for me. He dared to step closer, to reach out as if to touch my arm in a gesture of pathetic consolation. I flinched back as if from acid. Don't, I whispered. He withdrew his hand. A flicker of something, irritation. Maybe I in his eyes. I've already spoken to Robert Halsey. He can represent you. He's discreet. He'd even picked my lawyer. The arrogance was breathtaking. Robert Halsey was a firm fixture, a company man. He'd ensure a reasonable settlement that primarily protected the firm and Landon's interests. A tidy, quiet end. The icy clarity that had descended earlier now hardened into a diamond-tipped resolve. Every emotion, the betrayal, the humiliation, the sheer rage that was compartmentalized, filed away in a mental vault, marked for later review. Right now, I needed to think. I needed to act. I'll consider it, I said, turning away from him, walking to the window overlooking the dead garden. I needed him to believe I was broken, that I was already beginning the process of capitulation. I need some time. Alone. I heard his exhale, a sigh of relief. The hardest part, for him, was over. He'd stated his terms. The negotiation, in his mind, had begun. Of course, he said, his voice softening with faux compassion. Take the weekend. I'll go back to the city. Give you space. Yes, that I thought. Go. He moved around the kitchen, gathering his keys, his wallet, the phone he now checked openly. A small, unconscious smile, touching his lips as he read a message. Probably from her. Missing you. It's stupid. Within 10 minutes, he was gone. The house was silent, save for the hum of the refrigerator and the faint, phantom echo of his betrayal. I didn't cry. I didn't break a single piece of the tasteful, impersonal ceramics in the kitchen. I walked to the secure wall safe in the study, the one he thought I didn't know the combination to. I'd watched him enter it once, his body shielding the keypad, but I had a memory for sequences. October 22nd, 18, our wedding date. The irony was almost funny. Inside were passports, some spare cash, and a burner phone, charged and inactive, in a sealed Faraday bag, a relic from a high-stakes case years ago involving industrial espionage. Marcus Thorne, my friend and the sharpest, most discreet private attorney in Manhattan, had given it to me, for paranoia's sake, he'd said, or for when you need a line that's truly, utterly clean. I took the phone, powered it on. There was only one number pre-programmed. I pressed call. It rang twice. This is Thorne. His voice was calm, alert even at this hour on a Saturday. He never slept. Marcus. It's a Lowen. A beat of silence. He knew. He'd warned me about the late nights, the new vibrancy that had nothing to do with me. Marcus saw patterns for a living. How bad? He asked. All business. Catastrophic. He's leaving. For the Van der Waal girl. The first year. I heard the soft scratch of a pen on paper. Okay. He's spoken to you? He's spoken at me. Wants a divorce. Offered me Halsey. Marcus let out a short, humorless breath. Of course he did. Arrogant prick. What's your status? I'm at the Hamptons' house. He's just left for the city. He thinks I'm in here weeping and considering his reasonable offer. Good. Let him think that. Do not engage. Do not sign anything. Do not reply to any text that isn't about the weather. You are a ghost. Understood? Understood. The yuan, he said, using the Chinese term we'd adopted as a code for the comprehensive. Years in the making, contingency plan we drafted after Landon's first. Minor. Drunken indiscretion at a bar convention. A plan that was equal parts prenuptial enforcement, financial forensic audit, and corporate takeover strategy. Are you ready to execute? I looked out at the gray, desolate landscape. My own reflection in the glass looked back, pale, severe, eyes like flint. The grieving wife was gone. The merger attorney was back online. Execute it, I said, my voice devoid of all tremor. All of it. Start with the law firm shares. I want my position completely insulated and my voting rights crystal clear by Monday morning. Then the joint accounts. Freeze everything except the household operating account. Drain it to the last permissible cent, then close it. The Hamptons property? Marcus asked, the keys on his laptop clacking softly in the background. Mine. It's in the irrevocable trust my father set up. He's never been on the deed. Change the locks today. Today. Marcus. Send a team. I want it to be a fortress by nightfall. Consider it done. What about the apartment? I'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow. I'll move to the Lowell. Indefinitely. Have someone pack my essentials from the duplex. I don't want to see him. He's going to panic when he can't access his money or his vacation home. Marcus said, a note of grim satisfaction in his voice. Let him panic. I said, the first flicker of something other than cold fury warming my core. It wasn't warmth. It was the clean, blue heat of a welder's torch. He wanted a new chapter. Marcus. He just doesn't get to write mine as the victim he leaves behind. He gets to be the cautionary tale. What's the end game? Ellie? Marcus asked, his tone serious. Financial ruin is one thing, but with Prescott, it's personal. It's professional. I watched alone. Stubborn leaf skitter across the frozen patio. The end game, I said slowly, is reclamation of everything that's mine. The firm he's co-opted. The reputation he's built on my back. The life he thinks he can just trade in. And then, Marcus, then we see if his joy, his light, thinks he's quite so charming when he's just another mid-level attorney with a mountain of debt and a famous last name. The line was quiet for a moment. It'll be a scorched earth policy. He said finally, there's no coming back from this. For either of you. Not in this town. I finally turned away from the window. From the ghost of my reflection and the dead garden. I looked at the empty, perfect, cold Hamptons house that was now entirely, legally, mine. That's the point. Marcus, I said, my voice flat and final. There's no coming back, only going through. Start the war. The drive to Greenwich was a study in icy composure. I piloted the Range Rover, the same one Landon had chosen for its country estate connotations, with my hands at 10 and 2, my back straight. The February landscape was a monochrome blur. Inside the car, the silence was total, save for the soft hum of the heater and the occasional ping-off an encrypted message on the burner phone lying on the passenger seat. Marcus's updates were clinical and efficient. M. Thorne. Joint accounts frozen per your directive. Transfers to new sovereign entity accounts complete. Prescott's personal credit lines have been flagged for unusual activity review. Hill hit a wall at the first gas station. M. Thorne. Hampton's property secured. Locks changed. Security system codes rotated. Your personal items already in transit to the Lowell. The caretaker has been informed of the new ownership protocol. M. Thorne. Firm shares. It's complicated. Your 32% is solid, but his 28% is entangled with some family trust voting rights. We're unpicking it. More importantly, Gregory called. He's heard rumors. Wants to talk Monday. I advised discretion. I didn't reply. Discretion was the weapon of the day. I was a ghost, as Marcus instructed, a polite, composed, utterly terrifying ghost. The Prescott family compound was not a home, it was a statement. 12,000 square feet of imported limestone on 5 manicured acres. A monument to old money and older prejudices. As I pulled up the circular drive, I saw the other cars at a vintage Jaguar, a massive new G-Wagon, a Tesla that screamed nouveau riche relative trying too hard. The gathering was already in full swing. I smoothed the wool crepe of my Acris coat, a slash of navy against the gray day. My armor. I didn't ring the bell. I used the code Landon had given me years ago, a tentative offering of belonging. 0915, his father's birthday. The lock disengaged with a soft click that felt like the hammer of a gun being cocked. The sound of laughter and clinking crystal washed over me first. Then, the voice of Eleanor Prescott. Landon's mother, sharp and carrying from the great room, simply radiant, darling, and so young. It's like a breath of fresh air in this old pile. I rounded the corner. The scene was a tableau of waspish triumph. Landon stood by the fireplace, a glass of champagne in hand, looking strained but resplendent in a cashmere sweater that cost more than Chloe's monthly rent. Chloe Vanderval was perched on the edge of a Chippendale-style sofa, a vision of pink blush and white knuckles clutching a flute of champagne she clearly didn't know how to hold. She was wearing the diamond bracelet, Midiamond bracelet, the one that had paid for this little revelation. It sparkled with a vulgar, desperate glee on her slender wrist. Surrounding them were the Praetorian Guard, Landon's father, Charles Prescott III, holding court with a tumbler of scotch, his sister, Amanda, with the perpetually pinched expression of someone who'd married for money and was disappointed by the yield, and an assortment of aunts and uncles whose names I could never keep straight, all holding glasses, all wearing variations of the same smug, congratulatory smile. The conversation died the moment I stepped into the doorway. A dozen pairs of eyes swiveled to me. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Landon's face went through a fascinating series of transformations. Shock, guilt, then a hard, defiant mask. Eloan, your ear. You invited me to sign the separation agreement. Landon, I said, my voice calm, carrying. I didn't move from the doorway. I believe the papers are in your study. Shall we be adults about this? Eleanor Prescott recovered first, a society lioness defending her cub. She offered a smile that didn't touch her cold, flinty eyes. Eloan, how brave of you to come. We were just welcoming Chloe to the family. Officially, how lovely for you all, I said, my gaze sweeping over the room. It landed on Chloe, who seemed to be trying to shrink into the sofa. Miss Vanderval, I trust your orientation at the firm is going well. The research memos on the Henderson case were ambitious, if a bit derivative. Chloe's mouth opened, then closed. A faint stain of red appeared on her neck. I thank you. Ms. Prescott. It's Stratford. I corrected gently. My professional name. You'll find it on the door, the letterhead, and most of the firm's major client files. For now, the barb landed. Landon flinched. Charles Prescott cleared his throat, the sound like gravel shifting. No need for unpleasantness. Eloan, we're all civilized people here. Landon explained the situation. These things happen. Best to part as friends. For the sake of the business. The business, I repeated, finally stepping into the room. My heels were silent on the priceless Persian rug. Yes, Charles, the business, the one you told Landon was a fool's errand when we started it, the one you refused to invest in, the one that now pays for this. I let my gaze drift over the Renoir sketch, the overrated sculpture, lifestyle. Funny how that works. Charles's face modeled. That's uncalled for, is it? I stopped a few feet from Landon. I looked only at him. The papers. Landon, I have other appointments. He set his jaw, the petulant boy peeking through. In the study. Follow me. As I turned to follow him, Eleanor's voice, saccharine and deadly, followed me. We're so happy for Landon. You know, he needs someone who understands the social obligations of his position. Someone who isn't always buried in a deposition calendar. Chloe's family, the Vander Walls, are very well connected in Newport. It's a much better fit. I paused, half turning. How fortunate for you. All that fit is now the primary criterion. I was under the mistaken impression that partnership required. Well, an actual partner, not an accessory. I didn't wait for a reply. I followed Landon's stiff back into the oak-paneled study, the room smelling of leather, regret, and his father's cheap cigars. He shut the door harder than necessary. Was that necessary? He hissed, rounding on me, humiliating her in front of my family. Humiliation is finding out your fiancé's credit cards are frozen because he's a morally bankrupt idiot. I said coolly, walking to the imposing desk where a single document lay. This was a mild correction. Where do I sign? He stared at me, a mix of confusion and dawning anger. What do you mean? Frozen? I ignored him, picking up the separation agreement. It was standard, boilerplate, skewed predictably in his favor. A lump sum, spousal support for a limited term, a division of mutual assets that would leave me with my shares and a pittance. The work, I suspected, of a junior associate at Halsey's firm. Amateur hour. This is insufficient, I said, dropping it back on the desk. It's more than generous. He snapped, crossing his arms. Given the circumstances being your adultery with a subordinate? I let the word hang in the air. The circumstances being the potential sexual harassment lawsuit I could file on behalf of the firm, citing a hostile work environment you created? The circumstances being the PR nightmare for Prescott and Associates if the Post gets wind of a senior partner leaving his wife of 15 years for a 22-year-old intern whose daddy golfs at your club? His bravado faltered. You wouldn't. It would tank the firm's value. Your shares, my shares would survive. Yours might not. I took a pen from the holder. It was heavy, gold-plated, monogrammed. A gift from his father for making partner. Here's the new circumstance. Landon, you will sign over your entire interest in the Hamptons property to me. It's already done on my end, but your signature makes it clean. You will waive any and all claims to my shares, past, present, and future. You will agree to a one-time, lump sum payment to me, the figure of which my attorney will provide, and you will do it today, now, or I walk out of this room, get in my car, and call not just the Post, but every major client I've brought to the firm and explain exactly why their lead counsel is about to become a massive liability. His face was pale. You're bluffing. Try me. I held his gaze. You wanted a clean break. This is as clean as it gets. You get your joy. You get your light. And I get what I'm owed for 15 years of building the pedestal you're standing on. The silence stretched. I could hear the muffled sound of forced laughter from the other room. He was calculating, the lawyer in him wrestling with the panicked man. He knew I wasn't bluffing. He'd seen me in negotiations. He knew my tells. And the absolute stillness in my eyes right now was the most dangerous tell of all. Fine, he spat out, the word tasting like ash. But the payment, it can't cripple me. It won't, I said. It'll just inconvenience you. Deeply. Marcus will send the figure. You'll agree to it, and you'll sign the amended papers he messengers over within the hour. I leaned forward, placing my hands on the desk. And Landon, you will go out there, and you will tell your ghastly family that this was an amicable, mutual decision, that we've come to a fair and private arrangement. You will not paint me as the bitter, scorned woman, because if I hear one whisper, one leak to page 6, our next conversation will be in a courtroom, and I will take everything, including the cufflinks. He recoiled as if struck. The cufflinks had been my father's, a man he'd pretended to admire. I straightened up, picked up the original agreement, and tore it neatly in half, letting the pieces flutter into his expensive wastebasket. I'll wait for the corrected documents. Have your attorney, a real one, not Halsey's lackey, review them. Quickly, I turned and left him there, a shell of a man in his father's study. Back in the great room, the celebration had resumed, albeit with a strained, watchful energy. Chloe was now clinging to Landon's sister, Amanda, who was patting her hand with reptilian condescension. Eleanor approached me, a fresh glass of champagne in her hand. She offered it, a peace offering, or a poisoned chalice, a drink. Eloan? For old time's sake? I looked at the bubbling liquid, then at her. No, thank you, Eleanor. I find celebrations of other people's misfortunes to be in poor taste, even when the misfortune is their own. Her smile froze. Charles appeared at her shoulder, a wall of pinstriped disapproval. It didn't have to be this way. You know, you could have tried harder, been more accommodating. I looked at this man who had never accepted me, who saw my ambition as unfeminine and my success as a threat to his son's fragile ego. You're right, Charles, I said, my voice low enough that only they could hear. I could have tried harder to be less successful, less intelligent, less of a woman who built something from nothing while your son played at being a lawyer. But that wouldn't have been very accommodating to myself, would it? I turned to go. I had my hand on the massive brass door handle when Landon emerged from the study, his face a grim mask. He gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. The papers, the new terms, were being drawn. He'd capitulated. I looked back at the room, at the Prescotts, a tribe united in their shallow, smug victory, at Chloe, the shiny new toy who had no idea of the cost of admission, at Landon, who stood between them, already looking diminished. I raised my voice, just slightly, enough for them all to hear. Enjoy the champagne. Everyone, do savor it. My eyes locked with Landon's, and I let the ghost of a smile touch my lips. It's the last truly good bottle you'll have for a very, very long time. Then I opened the door and stepped out into the cold. Clean air. The burner phone was in my hand before the door closed behind me. I dialed Marcus as I walked, my stride long and sure, toward my car. It's done, I said the moment he answered. He's agreed. Send the new papers. The number is 50% above the original ask. He'll pay it. Understood, Marcus said. I could hear the faint sound of typing. And the family? Exactly as predicted. A nest of vipers toasting their own future poisoning. I reached the car, slid inside, and started the engine. The heater roared to life, pushing back the chill that had seeped into my bones. Now we moved to phase 2. The clients. I've already had feelers. Marcus said, discreet ones. Michael Sterling is concerned. He's heard whispers. He doesn't like whispers when his billion-dollar merger is on the line. Michael Sterling, CEO of Sterling Biotech, our single most profitable client, a man who valued discretion, loyalty, and cold, hard competence above all else. A man who respected me and tolerated Landon. Set up a dinner, I said, pulling out of the Prescott driveway, not looking back at the mausoleum of limestone and bad decisions. Somewhere private. Tell him I have insights on the post-merger regulatory landscape that he needs to hear, and that my availability for personal counsel is newly expanded. He'll read between the lines. Marcus cautioned, but I could hear the approval in his voice. He's a billionaire. Marcus. Reading between the lines is how he got there. I merged onto the highway, pointing the car south, toward Manhattan, toward the future. Make the call. And Marcus, yes, have a bottle of something exceptional sent to my suite at the Lowell. Not champagne. Something with more backbone. A Burlo, perhaps. 2010. Celebrating already? He asked, a note of surprise in his voice. No, I said, watching the sterile, wealthy landscape of Greenwich give way to the grittier. Rila Highway. I'm toasting a closed chapter. The next one requires a sterner vintage. I ended the call. The silence in the car was no longer empty. It was filled with purpose, with strategy. The first move in the Prescott family's little game was over. They thought they'd won. They'd toasted their victory. They had no idea the game had just changed. And I was writing the new rules. The Lowell suite smelled of lemons, beeswax, and immense, quiet money. It was a different silence from the Hamptons' house. Not emptiness, but potential. My belongings, the carefully curated selection Marcus's team had packed that occupied one corner of the living room. Neat Louis Vuitton cases that seemed out of place amidst the serene. Antiques filled opulence. I stood at the window, looking down at 63rd Street, a tumbler of the 2010 Barolo in my hand. It was deep, unforgiving, complex, like a well-planned countersuit. My personal phone, now cleansed of Landon's number and all Prescott-associated contacts. Buzzed on the Italian marble console. The screen showed a 212 number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, the burner phone, lying next to a folder marked Sterling Biotech, Regulatory Pathways, hung. It was Marcus. He's calling. He said, "No greeting necessary. Landon, on your personal line." He's agitated. His cards are declining. The Hamptons caretaker just told him the locks have been changed and to direct all inquiries to Thorne Associates. He tried to access the operating account for the duplex. Zero balance. I took a slow sip of the wine. Good. He's left 3 messages. The first is confused. The second is angry. The third is negotiating. I could hear the smirk in Marcus's voice. He's offering to reconsider the settlement terms if you just unlock the joint account for essential expenses. He claims Chloe is embarrassed at a lunch at Cote because his Amex was declined. A cold, sharp sliver of satisfaction lodged itself in my chest. Send him the amended agreement, the one with the 50% premium, and attach a PDF of the restaurant's menu. Tell him I recommend the steak tartare. It's excellent. Marcus chuckled. A dry, rustling sound. Done. The Sterling dinner is set. Tomorrow, 8 p.m., at the chef's table in the back of Crown. Michael insisted on privacy. He's bringing his GC, Lorna Chun. That was interesting. Lorna Chun, Sterling Biotech's general counsel, was a razor-sharp former federal prosecutor. She didn't suffer fools. Her presence meant Michael wasn't just curious, he was doing due diligence. Perfect. I said, have the Mercer-Volkov sensitivity analysis on the new EU data laws ready, and the memo on Landon's handling of the environmental due diligence on the Perth acquisition, the one with the optimistic interpretations, the one that could be charitably called negligent if the Australian regulators get snippy? Marcus clarified. That's the one. Print it. Hard copy. Lorna likes paper trails. I ended the call. The personal phone buzzed again. A text. This time. Unknown. Eloan. This is insane. We need to talk. This is hurting the firm. Call me. El. I deleted it. I poured another half glass of Burlo. The next call was from Gregory Vance, the firm's managing partner. I let it ring 3 times before answering. My voice was professionally warm, carefully neutral. Gregory, how are you? Eloan. Gregory's voice was a low baritone. Strained. I've been trying to reach you. I'm hearing noises. Noises. Gregory? In Midtown? It's to be expected. A pause. He wasn't in the mood for deflections. Don't. Just don't. Landon is in my office right now, claiming you've, what's the word, financially ambushed him. He says you've frozen him out of everything. He's talking about breach of fiduciary duty, about you endangering client relationships. I could picture it. Landon, red-faced, pacing in Gregory's corner office with the view of the park he coveted, spinning a tale of victimhood. My separation from Landon is a personal matter. Gregory, the financial arrangements are between our attorneys. As for client relationships, my last email check showed the Mercer-Volkov deal was on track and the Sterling post-merger integration is ahead of schedule. Is there a specific client relationship you're concerned about? Another. Longer pause. I'd put him on the defensive. Gregory hated personal drama in the firm. He hated instability more. He says you're planning to poach clients, that you're talking to Michael Sterling. Michael Sterling is a friend as well as a client. I said smoothly. He reached out to offer his condolences on my personal situation. I'm having dinner with him tomorrow to thank him. Is there a firm policy against senior partners having dinner with grieving friends? I let the word grieving hang. A small, precise poison dart. Gregory sighed, the sound heavy with the weight of partnership equity. Eloan, you know how this looks. The 2 of you are our biggest rainmakers. This schism, it's dangerous. The vultures are already circling. Fletcher Lowe called Henderson at Mercer this morning. Just checking in. Fletcher Lowe, our most aggressive competitor. Of course they had. Then perhaps, I said, my voice cooling a degree. The firm's energy would be better spent reassuring clients of our stability and focus, rather than entertaining hysterical accusations from a partner whose personal conduct is, let's say, suddenly of questionable judgment. A partner, I might add, who seems to be spending more time planning his wedding to a first-year associate than on the Perth acquisition filings, the ones that are due Friday. I believe the silence on the other end was profound. I just shifted the narrative from spiteful ex-wife to distracted, irresponsible partner creating liability. The Perth filings aren't done? Gregory's voice was dangerously quiet. You'd have to ask Landon, or Chloe Vanderval. I believe she was assisting him before their collaboration became more personal. I delivered the line with clinical detachment. Now, if you'll excuse me, Gregory, I have to prepare for my dinner. With a friend. I hung up. The game was in motion. The chef's table at Crown was less a room and more a vault. Soundproofed, with a single entrance. It was where Manhattan's true power players went to talk without being seen or heard. Michael Sterling was already there, a bear of a man in a slightly rumpled suit, his intelligent eyes missing nothing. Beside him, Lorna Chin was a sleek contrast in a tailored black dress, her gaze as assessing as a surgeon's. Eloan, Michael said, rising and enveloping me in a brief. Gruff hug. He smelled of cigar smoke and ambition. You look like hell. Thank you, Michael. You always did have a silver tongue. He barked a laugh. Sit, drink. Lorna's already ordered a bottle of something punishingly expensive. My treat. In that case, I'll have the same, I said, taking a seat opposite Lorna. We exchanged nods. No smile. We were beyond that. Marcus Thorne sends his regards, Lorna said, her voice like polished stone. He says you're in a state of strategic repositioning. I enjoy Marcus. He never uses one word when 10 will obfuscate more thoroughly. I'm leaving Prescott and Associates, I said, cutting to the chase. With these two, obliqueness was an insult. The circumstances are personal, but the ramifications are professional. I will be forming my own boutique firm, specializing in high-stakes M&A and corporate governance. Immediately, Michael leaned back, steepling his fingers. Immediately. That's fast. Landon Prescott have a say in this? Landon Prescott is the circumstance, I said, meeting his gaze. His judgment has become compromised. His focus is elsewhere. You've met Chloe Vanderval, I believe, at the firm's summer mixer. Lorna's lips thinned almost imperceptibly, the intern with the enthusiastic handshake. I remember. She is no longer an intern. She is his fiancée and his current priority. I let that sink in. The Perth acquisition. The environmental waivers he's pushing through based on a 1998 impact study that everyone knows is garbage. That's not aggressive lawyering. Michael, that's negligence, wrapped in arrogance, and tied with a bow of personal distraction. Not if the Australian authorities push back. Prescott and Associates will be facing sanctions, massive fines, and a client who will rightfully sue for malpractice. I slid the hard copy memo across the table. Lorna picked it up, her eyes scanning the pages with terrifying speed. This is the memo Landon approved for the Perth board? She asked, her voice colder now. It is. I disagreed with the conclusions, vehemently. My objections are noted in the file, but they were overruled by Landon, who was, I'm told, late for the final review meeting because he was picking out engagement rings. Michael let out a low whistle. Jesus, Ellie, he's lost his damn mind. He's in love, I said flatly. It's often the same thing. The point is, the firm's risk profile is changing. Under Gregory, it's always been about growth, about billable hours. Under Landon's current influence, It's about cutting corners to free up time. Your merger, Michael, is the crown jewel. It's also a complex regulatory minefield across 6 jurisdictions. Do you want the lead counsel on that minefield to be a man who's more focused on his wedding registry than on EU antitrust updates? Michael looked at Lorna. A silent conversation passed between them in a flicker of eyes. What are you proposing? Lorna asked, setting the memo down. I'm not proposing anything. I'm informing you, as a friend and as the attorney who has shepherded Sterling Biotech from a Series B startup to a multinational powerhouse, that I will no longer be at Prescott and Associates. My new firm, Stratford Legal, will be operational within the month. My commitment to your business, however, remains absolute. Should you wish to continue our working relationship, I would be honored. The alternative, I spread my hands, is that you remain with Prescott. I'm sure Gregory will assign a very capable team, perhaps even Landon, if he can find the time. The waiter arrived with the wine, a 2015 Latour. He went through the ritual of presentation, pouring, tasting. Michael dismissed him with a wave. The silence stretched as we sipped. The wine was magnificent. This per thing, Michael said finally, tapping the memo. It's a problem. It's a ticking bomb. Lorna corrected. And if Prescott signed off on this, it calls into question every piece of advice he's given us for the last 18 months. We'd have to re-review the entire Volkov merger structure. The cost, the delay. She shook her head. It's untenable. My first official act at Stratford Legal, I said quietly, will be to conduct a full, independent audit of all Prescott work for Sterling Biotech, pro bono, to ensure continuity and, more importantly, to ensure there are no more surprises lurking. My team will be comprised of the senior associates who actually did the work on your account, the ones Landon took credit for. Michael looked at me, a slow grin spreading across his face. You've done your homework. You've got the people. I have the people who do the work. I corrected. Landon has the title. In our business, which is more valuable, he raised his glass, to the people who do the work. We clinked. It wasn't a signed contract. It was better. It was a tacit understanding between predators. Lorna gave a small, decisive nod. The Sterling Biotech account, worth millions in annual billings, the firm's prestige cornerstone, had just shifted its allegiance. Silently, completely, as the first course arrived, Michael leaned in. So, this new firm, you'll need space. I've got a floor coming free in our building on Park. Landlord owes me a favor. I'll make an intro. That's generous. Michael, thank you. Don't thank me. Just make sure my merger doesn't blow up. And Ellie? He fixed me with a look. Don't just take Sterling. Take Henderson at Mercer, too. He's a follower. And take the Wilkes family office. Old man Wilkes can't stand Prescott. Thinks he's a preppy brat. This gives him the excuse he's been looking for. The rest of the dinner was logistics, strategy, the brutal, beautiful calculus of corporate divorce. By the time the espresso arrived, my new firm had its first 3 clients, its potential office space, and a silent, powerful patron. My phone buzzed in my purse. A text from a number I'd almost forgotten. Amanda Prescott. Eloan, it's Amanda. We need to talk. It's about Landon and that gold-digging little idiot. I think we might be on the same side for once. I stared at the message. Amanda, Landon's viper of a sister, who had always viewed me as a social climbing interloper. On the same side, the sheer, desperate cynicism of it took my breath away. The Prescotts were closing ranks, but it seemed the ranks had fractures. I didn't reply. Not yet, but I saved the number. Even vipers had their uses. Across town, in a lavish suite at the Mark Hotel, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Landon paced, phone pressed to his ear, while Chloe sat on the edge of a brocade settee, pouting at her reflection in a gilded mirror. I don't understand. Gregory, Landon said, trying and failing to keep the whine out of his voice. She can't just lock me out of my own accounts. The prenup was clear. Gregory's voice, tinny and exhausted through the speaker, replied, the prenup, Landon, dealt with the division of assets in the event of divorce. It didn't prohibit her from moving jointly held funds during the marriage, which, legally, you still are. Her attorney, Marcus Thorne, has cited a clause about imminent financial dissipation due to demonstrable, reckless behavior. He's filed a motion. It's going to take months to untangle. This is insane. I have expenses, the wedding plans, this suite. Chloe's parents are expecting a certain level. Then put it on your personal card. Gregory snapped. It's maxed out, Landon shouted, then lowered his voice as Chloe shot him a wounded look. She did this. She's trying to strangle me. She's playing a better game than you are, Gregory said, bluntly. And while you're worried about flower arrangements, I've got Henderson from Mercer on the line asking pointed questions about leadership stability. And Michael Sterling just canceled our quarterly review meeting. No explanation. Landon stopped pacing. A cold trickle of dread cut through the panic. Sterling canceled? Did he reschedule? He did not. His office said he'd be in touch. Gregory's sigh was a gust of static. Landon, you need to get your head out of your ass and back in the game. Today, I don't care about your marital problems. I care about this firm. Your behavior has put a target on all of us. Now fix it. Start by getting those Perth filings on my desk. Perfect. By Friday. Or I'll find someone who can. The line went dead. Landon stared at the phone. A sensation he wasn't used to. Pure, undiluted helplessness washing over him. What did he say? Chloe asked, her voice a petulant chirp. Can you fix the cards? I saw the most incredible Vera Wong today, but they need a deposit, and my dad said he's not paying for everything. That it's your job to. Not now. Chloe, Landon snapped, instantly regretting it as her face crumpled. He forced a smile, walking over to her. Sorry, it's just work stress. Gregory's being a hard ass. Don't worry about the dress. I'll handle it. But how? She persisted, her eyes wide with a mixture of avarice and anxiety. Your mom said the pre-wedding luncheon has to be at the Colony Club, and that's, like, $1,000 a plate minimum. And my mom wants to invite, like, everyone from Greenwich, as she prattled on, listing the mounting costs of the Prescott van der Waal Union. Landon's phone buzzed again, an email alert from Marcus Thorne, the subject line, revised separation agreement asset schedule. He opened it. The number for the lump sum payment, the inconvenience fee, glared at him from the screen. It was a number that would require him to liquidate stock, to borrow against his partnership equity, to go, hat in hand, to his father, and below it, in the body of the email, was a single, devastating line, written with Marcus's typical dry precision. Per our earlier discussion regarding liquidity, attached, please find the menu from Cote. As per my client's suggestion, the steak tartare is indeed highly recommended. Landon Prescott sank onto the settee next to his young, expensive, chattering fiancé. The glow of his new chapter finally, utterly extinguished, replaced by the cold, clear light of a trap snapping shut. The silent exodus had begun, and he was just now hearing the sound of the door locking behind him. The water in Fiji was a cliché of blue, the sand a blinding white. Landon Prescott lay on a double lounger, a sweating glass of overpriced rum punch in his hand, and tried to feel like he'd won. Chloe, a golden streak in a microscopic bikini, was scrolling through her phone beside him, letting out little sighs of pleasure as she liked photos from their wedding. The ceremony at his parents' Greenwich estate had been a blur of forced smiles and his mother's brittle perfection. The photos, he knew, would be flawless. The reality felt like a low-grade hangover that wouldn't lift. My sorority sister, Alicia commented. Chloe chirped, not looking up. She says we look literally transcendent. She's so jealous. Her husband took her to Napa for their honeymoon. She imbued the word with utter disdain. Landon grunted, his own phone a lead weight on his stomach. It was on Do Not Disturb, but the screen kept lighting up with notifications. Work emails. Gregory's name appeared with alarming frequency. Ugh, I told the planner we wanted white orchids, not phalaenopsis. Chloe pouted, zooming in on a floral arrangement photo. Phalaenopsis are so pedestrian. My mother will notice. I'm sure it was fine, Landon said, his voice tighter than he intended. She finally looked at him, her pretty face scrunching. Fine, Landon. This is our wedding. It has to be perfect. It's going in Vogue. My mom knows the editor. She shifted, her expression turning wheedling. Speaking of perfect, I saw the most incredible set of Van Cleef bangles at the store in the lobby. The rose gold ones. They'd be perfect with my wedding band. Just because present for my new husband? She fluttered her lashes, a move that had once seemed charmingly naive. Now it felt like a transaction. A cold, knot tightened in Landon's gut. The credit card decline at Coat had been a humiliation he'd blustered through, blaming a security glitch. The suite, the flights, the endless activities that all were on a new, high-limit card he'd applied for in a panic. Its looming bill a specter in the back of his mind. The reasonable settlement from a low-in was a distant fantasy, replaced by Marcus Thorne's draconian numbers. His liquid cash was gone, frozen or seized. The money for the bangles, for the overpriced orchids, for this entire fantasy, was now tied up in equity he couldn't touch and a monthly draw from the firm that suddenly felt terrifyingly insufficient. Let's talk about it later. Sweetheart, he said, forcing a smile. I need to check in with the office. Time zone difference. Her smile vanished. Again? You promised. No work. This is our honeymoon. It's just one call, he said, already swinging his legs off the lounger. The need to escape the sun and her demands overwhelming. He retreated to the shaded, opulent gloom of their villa, the silence broken only by the gentle whir of the air conditioning and the pounding of his own heart. He closed the door and called Gregory. It went to voicemail. He tried again. On the third ring, Gregory answered. He didn't bother with hello. The Perth filings. Where are they? Landon's mouth went dry. They're in progress. Chloe was helping with the annexes and with the wedding. I don't care if the Queen of England was helping you. Landon. They were due to the Australian Securities Commission yesterday. I had to have Susan from regulatory stay until midnight to file a bare-bones extension request. The client is furious. They're talking about breach of service agreement. Susan, a competent, mousy associate he'd always taken for granted. The idea of her saving his work was a fresh humiliation. I'll get on it today. I'll have Chloe. Keep her away from it. Gregory's voice was a whip crack. Are you insane? After the situation? Having your fiancé. Wife. Work on sensitive client material is a compliance nightmare waiting to happen. I've already had a terse email from Lorna Chen's office asking for a full audit of all Sterling work product from the last 18 months. An audit. Landon. They don't trust us. The knot in Landon's stomach turned to ice. An audit? Why? What did Aloan say to them? I don't know what she said. Gregory hissed. But I know what she did. Michael Sterling has formally requested that all future work on the Volkov merger be handled by a dedicated, conflict-free team. He was very polite. He was also very clear. He didn't name you, but he didn't have to. Landon sank onto a silk-covered ottoman. The villa, with its plunge pool and exotic flower arrangements, felt like a gilded cage. Gregory, you have to understand. She's trying to destroy me. This is pure retaliation. She's poisoning my client relationships because she's bitter. I don't care if she's the wicked witch of the West. Gregory exploded. You gave her the ammunition. You left your wife for a 22-year-old associate. You're distracted. You're missing deadlines. And your biggest client is jumping ship because of it. This isn't about your love life, Landon. This is about the firm. My firm. The one I built from nothing. And you're burning it down for a piece of tail. The vulgarity, coming from usually stoic Gregory, was a shock. It's not like that, Landon whispered. The defense, sounding weak even to his own ears. It is exactly like that to everyone who matters, Gregory said, his voice dropping to a deadly calm. Fix the Perth mess. Today. Then get on a plane and get back here. We have a partnership meeting scheduled for the 28th. The agenda is governance and risk management. You do not want to be the poster child for risk. Landon, you really don't. The line went dead. Landon stared at his phone, the screen reflecting his own pale, panicked face. The 28th. A week away. A governance meeting. It was a coup in the making, and he was sunbathing in Fiji. The villa door slid open. Chloe stood there, silhouetted against the blazing sun, hands on her hips. Well, are you done saving the world? Because I made reservations for the underwater restaurant, and we need to get ready. He looked at her, at the pout, the expectation, the utter, breathtaking lack of awareness, the bangles, the orchids, the Vogue spread, his new chapter. It all tasted like ashes. We have to go back, he said, the words hollow. What? No. We're here for 2 more weeks. The overwater bungalow in Bora Bora is booked. Something's come up. At work. It's an emergency. Tears. Instant and practiced. Welled in her eyes. You promised. This is the most important time of our lives. And you're choosing work over me. Again, a familiar, weary frustration surged in him. This was the script with Eloan, too. But Eloan's frustration was about neglected mergers, not missed spa appointments. The comparison, unbidden and brutal, left him winded. It's not a choice. Chloe, it's a disaster. My biggest client is leaving. The firm is in trouble. She wiped at her eyes, the tears gone as quickly as they came, replaced by a sharp, calculating look he was beginning to recognize. Is it because of her? That bitter old witch? It doesn't matter why. He snapped, standing up. What matters is that if I don't get back and fix it, there might not be a firm, or a partnership, or the money for the Van Cleef bangles, or the overwater bungalows, or any of it. Okay, do you understand that? The color drained from her face, but not from fear, from anger. Are you blaming me for this? I'm blaming the situation. He roared, his control finally snapping. The sound echoed in the luxurious villa. I'm blaming the fact that I'm trapped on the other side of the world while my life is being dismantled by my psychotic ex-wife. Chloe stared at him, her lips a thin, white line. Your life, she said quietly, coldly. You mean our life. I'm your wife now. Landon, what's yours is mine, including your problems. So you fix it, but you're not ruining my honeymoon. She turned on her heel. I'm going to the restaurant. You can join me or not, but we are not leaving Fiji tomorrow. She stalked out, leaving him alone with the hum of the air conditioner and the sinking, certain knowledge that the paradise he'd mortgaged his life for was nothing but a beautiful, expensive prison. Back in Manhattan, winter was giving way to a damp, grudging spring. In a sleek, temporary conference room at the Lowell, my war room was operational. Spread across a large table were flowcharts, client lists, and partnership agreements. Marcus sat across from me, while a sharp-eyed woman named Anya Kozlov, the star associate I'd poached from Prescott's regulatory team, pointed to a clause in the firm's operating agreement. Here, Anya said, her voice crisp with the faintest Russian accent. Section 8.4. Voting rights pertaining to the removal of a managing partner or for cause dismissal of a senior partner can be triggered by a simple majority vote of the full partnership, provided said vote is precipitated by a formal, Written submission of evidence demonstrating material risk or gross negligence to the partnership's interests. Gross negligence. I repeated, Gregory is too cautious to go for something that dramatic. He'll aim for material risk. It's fuzzier, more subjective, and we have the subjectivity. Marcus said, tapping a thin file, the Perth documents. Susan Kim, God bless her meticulous soul, forwarded me every draft, with every one of Landon's overrides and Chloe's contributions highlighted. It's a roadmap of bad judgment. He prioritized speed over due diligence. Repeatedly, after you left. The environmental waivers are a lawsuit waiting to happen. Will it be enough for Gregory to move against him? I asked. Gregory was a pragmatist, not a crusader. He wouldn't act out of moral outrage, only financial imperative. It will be when combined with this, Marcus said, sliding another sheet of paper toward me. It was a client retention projection, the lines trending sharply downward. Sterling Biotech was listed as at high risk of defection. Next to it, Mercer Global was marked moderate risk. Monitoring. 2 other major clients were flagged in yellow. I had a coffee with Ben Henderson's COO. He's concerned. He heard about Sterling. He doesn't like drama unless it's on a balance sheet. The fact that Landon's personal drama is impacting client confidence is a problem. So we give Gregory the stick. I'm mused, looking at the documents, the Perth negligence, the client exodus, and we give him the carrot. I looked at Anya, the contingency plan for the Sterling and Mercer transitions, the talent retention list. Anya nodded. I've spoken to 6 others. Susan Kim, David Park, Maria Garcia from Tax. They're ready to follow you. They're tired of cleaning up Landon's messes and watching him take the credit. They know where the real work gets done. It was the final, crucial piece. A law firm is its partners on the letterhead, but it runs on its senior associates and junior partners. Landon had never understood that. He saw them as interchangeable cogs. I saw them as the foundation, and I was quietly, methodically, pulling that foundation out from under him. My personal phone buzzed, a number from Greenwich. I almost dismissed it, but something made me answer. Eloan, it's Amanda. The voice was strained, stripped of its usual socialite purr. Amanda, to what do I owe the pleasure? My tone was ice. A pause. I could hear her lighting a cigarette. It's about my idiot brother and that girl. The word was a sneer. There's been a scene. At the club, Mother is having vapors. I waited, saying nothing. Silence was a weapon. It made people rush to fill it. She's not what we were led to believe. Amanda said finally, the admission dragged out of her. The Vander Walls. There's money. Yes, but it's all from the mother's side. The father, let's just say his business dealings are creative. There are rumors. And the girl, she's already talking to a wedding planner about a reception for 500 at the Met. She's picked out china patterns. She asked Mother if the Prescott family had a tiara she could borrow for the something old. A tiara. I couldn't help it. A short, dry laugh escaped me. How trace Gatsby of her. It's not funny. Eloan. Amanda snapped. But there was no real heat in it. She's a gold-digging social climber with the subtlety of a freight train. And Landon is so besotted he can't see it. Or he's in too deep to care. Father is furious. The prenup Landon had her sign is a joke. She gets $1 million just for showing up. And more if she pops out an heir. It's a farce. I leaned back in my chair. Amanda Prescott, calling me for help. The world truly was turning upside down. And what, precisely, do you expect me to do about it? Amanda, send her an etiquette manual? I expect you to do what you do best. Amanda said, her voice dropping. Make him see reason. Make him see the financial ruin he's headed for. The firm. Mother hears things at her charity boards. Rumors are flying. Clients are nervous. If the firm falters, it's not just Landon's income. It's the family standing. It's everything. Ah, there it was. Not concern for Landon. Not remorse for how they'd treated me. Fear for the Prescott brand. Fear for the money. I'm afraid I'm no longer in the business of managing Landon's poor decisions, I said smoothly, or protecting the Prescott standing. You made your bed, as they say. Now you get to admire the gauche china patterns on it. Eloan, please. The word sounded foreign in her mouth. He'll listen to you. He respects you. He's scared of you right now. That gave me a flicker of cold satisfaction. Good, I said. He should be. But my conversation with Landon is over. My only remaining business with your brother is through our attorneys. And if I were you, Amanda, I'd be less worried about the china and more worried about your own trust fund. I have a feeling the Prescott coffers are going to be tapped rather deeply in the coming months to fund Landon's redemption. I ended the call. Marcus and Anya were looking at me. Trouble in paradise? Marcus asked, one eyebrow raised. The vultures are turning on each other, I said, placing the phone face down. It seems the perfect fit is starting to chafe. Let's focus. The partnership meeting is in a week. We need everything airtight. I want Gregory to have no choice. He'll have a choice, Marcus said. It's just that the only other one will be to go down with the ship. Gregory's a survivor. He'll choose the life raft. He tapped the client list, even if it means throwing his golden boy overboard. I looked at the documents spread before me. A mosaic of ruin meticulously assembled. In Fiji, Landon was probably arguing with his new wife about dinner reservations, blissfully unaware that the waves weren't just lapping at the shore of his honeymoon. They were eroding the very ground beneath his feet. And I wasn't just the tide. I was the architect of the flood. The flight from Fiji was a special kind of torture. 14 hours in first class, but the champagne tasted flat, the caviar like ash. Chloe had spent the first 8 hours in frosty, wounded silence, the remaining 6 complaining about the turbulence, the seat, the disgusting vegan meal option she'd chosen by mistake. Landon had stared at the flight map, watching the little plane icon crawl over the vast, indifferent Pacific, feeling like he was flying toward his own execution. The reality of his new life began at JFK. His driver wasn't there. He called the service. Mr. Prescott, your account was suspended for non-payment. The last invoice from the Hamptons trip. Just send a car. Bill it to the firm account. Landon snapped, his face hot. He could feel Chloe's stare. I'm afraid we need a credit card on file for new rides. Sir, he ended the call, teeth clenched. They took a yellow cab. The driver reeked of cheap air freshener. Chloe crinkled her nose and stared out the window as they inched through Queens traffic. My father never takes cabs, she muttered. Their penthouse on Park Avenue felt different, colder, emptier. It took Landon a moment to realize what it was. Eloan's things were gone, not just her clothes, but the art books from the glass table, the sleek Italian coffee maker, the antique mirror from the entryway. The spaces they left behind were like missing teeth in a smile. The apartment was now just a very expensive shell, decorated with impersonal, showroom-perfect pieces his mother had chosen. He barely had time to drop his bag before his phone rang. Gregory, my office. Now, Gregory, I just got off a 14-hour flight. I need to. Now, Landon. Or don't bother coming in at all. The line went dead. Chloe was already heading toward the master bedroom, calling over her shoulder. I'm having my things sent from the Greenwich house. Make sure you're here to tip the movers. And call the concierge about a masseuse. My back is ruined from that flight. Landon stood alone in the cavernous living room, the silence screaming at him. He changed into a suit that felt too tight. His reflection in the barren entryway mirror pale and shadowed. The lobby of Prescott Associates felt the same. Hushed, expensive, smelling of lemon polish and ambition. But the receptionist, a new girl, didn't give him her usual bright smile. Her eyes darted away, nervously. Mr. Vance is expecting you. Mr. Prescott. As he walked toward the corner office, he noticed the hush. Associates, usually buried in work, would glance up, then quickly look down. A few whispered. His skin crawled. Gregory's office door was open. He wasn't at his desk. He was standing by the window, his back to the room. Landon's own office, right next door, had a yellow restricted access IT maintenance sticker slapped across the door handle. Close the door, Gregory said without turning. Landon did. Gregory, what the hell is going on? Why is my office locked? Gregory finally turned. He looked 10 years older. Sit down. Landon, I'd rather stand. What is this about? It's about the fact that while you were sipping my ties, your practice collapsed. Gregory picked up a remote and clicked. A flat screen on the wall lit up with a spreadsheet. Sterling Biotech. Formal notice of termination of services. Effective end of quarter. They're taking the entire Volkov merger file. Mercer Global. Put all new project work on hold. Pending internal review. The Henderson Group requested a meeting to discuss the future of our relationship. He clicked again. Another list. Wilkes Family Office. Gone. Atherton Capital. Gone. They didn't even call. Their new counsel sent a records request via courier. Landon's knees felt weak. He gripped the back of a chair. This is a coordinated attack. It's a Lowen. She's poaching them. Of course it's a Lowen. Gregory roared, slamming his hand on the desk. The quiet fury was more terrifying than shouting. But she's not poaching. They're following. There's a difference. One is theft. The other is a vote of no confidence. In you. We have other partners. We can reassign. Who? Landon? Who do you want to reassign them to? Susan Kim? She gave her notice this morning. David Park. Yesterday. Anya Kozlov. Last week. They're all going. To her. To Stratford Legal. He spat the name. She's taken the clients and the talent that actually did the work. You're left with a letterhead, a bloated overhead, and a reputation that's currently being used as a punchline on legal blogs. Landon's mouth was desert dry. We'll fight. We have non-competes against our own former senior partner, who we didn't fire, but who left because her husband, a senior partner, fucked an associate, a husband who then missed critical filings because he was on his honeymoon. Do you have any idea how that plays before the Bar Association's Ethics Committee? Or in the court of public opinion? Gregory shook his head in disgust. She's outmaneuvered you at every turn. And you didn't even see it coming because you were too busy buying a bigger diamond. That's not fair, Landon whispered. Fair? Gregory laughed. A hollow, bitter sound. You're a lawyer. You know better than that. Fair is irrelevant. Survival is what matters. And right now, you are the single biggest threat to the survival of this firm. He walked to his desk and picked up a single sheet of paper. The partnership meeting is tomorrow. The agenda has been circulated. Motion 1. A vote of no confidence in Landon Prescott's continued leadership as a senior equity partner, citing gross negligence with the Perth account, material damage to client relationships, and conduct detrimental to the firm. Motion 2. A proposal to invoke the forced buyout clause for his partnership share at a 30% discount due to the aforementioned damage. The words hit Landon like physical blows. You can't do that. My family's votes. Your father's trust holds a non-voting interest. It gets dividends. Not a say. The voting partners are me. Eloin.who, I remind you, still holds her shares. And the 3 others. I've spoken to them. They're scared. They see the numbers. They'll vote to save their own skins. Landon felt the world tilt. Eloin, she'll vote with you? Gregory's smile was thin and cruel. She submitted her proxy vote to me this morning, in favor of both motions. The final betrayal, the legal, Binglum, administrative coup de grace. She hadn't just taken his money and his clients. She was taking his name off the door they'd put up together. Get out. Landon. Gregory said, his voice weary. Go home. Consult your attorney. If you can afford one. The vote is at 10 a.m. tomorrow. I'd advise you not to be here. It will be undignified. Numb. Landon turned and left. The walk through the firm was a gauntlet. He saw junior associates he'd hired whispering. He saw the empty desk where Susan Kim used to sit. He saw, through a glass conference room wall, a team he didn't recognize working on what looked like the Sterling biotech files. For a moment, he thought he saw Lowen, but it was just a woman with a similar severe haircut, a ghost of his old life. Back in the cab, he'd had to use Chloe's credit card. Another humiliation. His phone buzzed with alerts, emails from American Express, Citibank, the management company for the Park Avenue building. All variations on a theme. Payment overdue. Services suspended. Final notice. He stumbled into the penthouse. Boxes were everywhere. Chloe's things. Monogrammed luggage. Hat boxes. Garment bags. She was in the center of the living room. Phone to her ear. Her voice shrill. I don't care what the policy is. I am Mrs. Landon Prescott, and I have a standing appointment for a blowout every Tuesday at 10. You will find a slot for me, or I will speak to the owner. She saw him, her eyes blazing. And you, the building manager just called. They're threatening to turn off the gym key fob because the HOA fees are late? What is going on? He just stared at her, at the mountain of her belongings, consuming the space, at her outraged, beautiful, clueless face. The firm, he said, his voice ragged. They're voting me out tomorrow. I'm finished. She blinked. The phone slipped from her ear slightly. What do you mean? Finished? I mean no partnership, no income, a forced buyout at a discount that won't cover the debts. The money's gone. Chloe, it's all gone. The outrage on her face melted, replaced by something colder, sharper, calculation. But the prenup, I get. You get $1 million if we're married for 5 years. We've been married for 5 weeks. You get alimony based on my income, which, as of tomorrow, will be 0. He saw the numbers clicking behind her eyes, and for the first time, he saw the real Chloe Vanderval, the one beneath the blush and the bangles, a predator who'd picked the wrong carcass. You lied to me. She breathed, her voice trembling not with sadness, but with incandescent rage. You said you were a partner. You said you were set for life. I was. He shouted, the dam breaking. Until you with your lunches and your dresses and your goddamn Vera Wang. You were the final, expensive straw that broke it all. If you just what? She shrieked, stepping toward him. Stayed with your frigid, boring witch of a wife? She did this. She's doing this to punish you. And you're too weak to stop her. You're a loser. Landon, a pathetic loser. The word hung in the air between them. Toxic and true. He had no retort. The fight had left him. He was just a shell in a too-tight suit, standing in a half-empty apartment he couldn't afford, with a wife who despised him. His phone rang, an unknown number. He answered it, a desperate reflex. Landon. The voice was calm, familiar. It was a bucket of ice water. Eloan. The name was a curse, a plea. I hear you're back. I assume Gregory delivered the news. You bitch. He hissed. The words choked. You vindictive, scheming bitch. You're destroying me. No, Landon, she said, and her voice was so quiet, so reasonable. It was more terrifying than any scream. I'm not destroying you. I'm simply repossessing what was always mine. The clients, the respect, the firm. You destroyed yourself the moment you confused a midlife crisis for true love and a first-year associate for a partner. I'm just cleaning up the mess. I'll fight you. I'll sue you for tortious interference. For anything. You're welcome to try, she said, and he could almost see her slight, pitying smile. But you should know, Marcus has prepared a rather comprehensive civil and potentially criminal complaint regarding the Perth filings. Gross negligence. bordering on fraud. The Australian authorities would be very interested. Your new wife's contributions are all over it. I wonder how her family will like that publicity. He couldn't breathe. She had thought of everything. Every exit was blocked. Mind, covered by snipers. Why? He whispered, the sound torn from his gut. Why are you doing this? There was a long pause. When she spoke again, all the cool reason was gone, replaced by a blade of pure, glacial fury. Because you and your awful family clinked glasses. You celebrated. You thought you won. You thought I was nothing. This, Landon, is what nothing looks like when it stops being polite. The call ended. He stood there, the phone still pressed to his ear, listening to the dial tone, the sound of his own obliteration. Behind him, Chloe was already on her phone, her voice a frantic, low whisper. Daddy? Daddy, it's me. It's a disaster. I need to come home. Tonight. Landon Prescott didn't hear her. He was staring out the vast, clean windows of his ruin, at the glittering, uncaring skyline of Manhattan, and for the first time in his charmed, entitled life, he understood the true cost of everything, and the price was absolute. The 38th floor conference room at Prescott Associates was designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a dizzying view of Central Park, a sprawling reminder of the empire the men in this room commanded. The table was a slab of black walnut, polished to a mirror shine, reflecting the grim faces of the 5 voting partners. The air smelled of expensive coffee, stale ambition, and tension so thick it was a physical presence. Landon sat at the far end, opposite the door. He looked like he hadn't slept. His suit was impeccable, but it hung on him. Next to him sat a pale, nervous man in a slightly shiny suit. Franklin Moss, a litigator from a mid-tier firm Landon, had scraped together the retainer for at the last minute. Moss was out of his depth, and everyone knew it. At the head of the table sat Gregory Vance, a monument in Navy Brioni. To his right was Robert Halsey, the firm's company man, his expression unreadable. To his left, the other 2 equity partners, Arthur Brigham, a tax specialist with the personality of a spreadsheet, and Diane Shaw, a fierce litigator with a withering stare. An empty chair, directly to Gregory's right, was conspicuously vacant. Eloan's chair. Let's call this meeting to order, Gregory said, his voice devoid of its usual avuncular rumble. It was flat, procedural. The agenda has been distributed. We are here to discuss 2 motions pertaining to the status of Landon Prescott as a senior equity partner. Landon, you are permitted counsel. Mr. Moss, but this is a partnership matter, not a court of law. We'll keep it civil and efficient. This is a farce. Gregory, Landon said, his voice rough, a witch hunt orchestrated by a vengeful ex-partner who is illegally poaching our clients. The clients who have left, Diane Shaw cut in, her voice like gravel, have done so through proper channels. They are free to choose their counsel. Your characterization is noted and irrelevant. The first motion pertains to your conduct, not Ms. Stratford's. Ms. Stratford, Landon spat. You mean my ex-wife, who is sitting in a hotel suite right now, dismantling this firm out of spite. Her motivations are not the subject of this vote, Gregory said, a vein ticking in his temple. Your competence, or lack thereof, is, Robert, if you'd begin. Halsey adjusted his glasses, opening a slim folder. The partnership has reviewed the Perth Holdings matter, the filing delays, the reliance on outdated environmental assessments, the overrides of internal compliance flags. The client has incurred significant penalties and is exploring malpractice claims. The potential exposure to the firm is substantial. This, following a pattern of client attrition directly linked to relationships you personally managed. He slid a sheet of paper down the table, a summary of billable hours and collected revenue from your top 5 client relationships over the last quarter. The trend is negative. Landon stared at the graph. The plunging red lines, a visual indictment. Those clients were our clients. Mine and Alohan's. She's taken them. That's not attrition, that's theft. Did you or did you not have primary relationship management for Sterling Biotech and Mercer Global? Arthur Brigham asked, his voice a dry rustle. He only cared about numbers. Yes, but, and are they, or are they not, no longer clients of this firm? Brigham pressed. Because she poisoned them against me. A competent partner, Diane Shaw said, fixing him with a cold stare, insulates his client relationships from personal drama. You failed, spectacularly. You turned your divorce into a firm-wide liability. The New York Law Journal has a reporter sniffing around. You're a professional embarrassment. Franklin Moss finally found his voice. My client's personal life is just that personal. You cannot hold him professionally accountable for the actions of a spiteful former spouse. This is a breach of the partnership agreement's good faith clause. Gregory's smile was thin. The good faith clause works both ways. Counselor, we have evidence suggesting Landon's personal decisions, namely, his relationship with a subordinate, which created a hostile work environment and a clear conflict of interest, directly led to a degradation in his professional judgment. C. The Perth files, which show lapses coinciding with a period of his romantic entanglement. See also the resignation of multiple senior associates who cite a toxic and unprofessional atmosphere emanating from his conduct. That's hearsay. Landon slammed his hand on the table. The water glasses jumped. They're loyal to her. They're lying. Are Susan Kim and David Park liars? Gregory asked softly. Their sworn affidavits are in the packet. They detail specific instances of your neglect, your delegation of complex work to an unqualified associate that her now wife, and your retaliation when they raised concerns. It's not hearsay. It's testimony. Landon felt the floor drop away. Susan, David, the people he'd bought Christmas bonuses for. They'd betrayed him. For her. The second motion. Halsey continued, as if discussing the weather, is a forced buyout of Landon Prescott's partnership share at a 30% discount, as per Clause 12C, for actions constituting gross negligence and material risk to the partnership. The valuation, post-discount, is outlined on page 7. Landon's eyes darted to the number. It was a fraction of what it was worth 6 months ago. It wouldn't cover his debts. It was a death sentence. You can't do this. My family's stake is non-voting. As you well know, Gregory said, the voting partners are in this room. And the proxy, he gestured to the empty chair. Alohan Stratford holds 32% of the voting equity. She has submitted her proxy vote to me, in favor of both motions. The room was silent, the weight of the math settling over everyone. With Alohan's shares, Gregory had a controlling block. The vote was a formality, a public execution. I call for the vote, Diane Shaw said, her face impassive. Just a moment. A new voice, calm and clear, came from the doorway. Every head turned. Alohan stood there. She wore a tailored charcoal suit. Her hair swept back. She looked rested, formidable, and utterly in command. She didn't look at Landon. She walked to the empty chair and Saturday, placing a simple leather portfolio on the table. Alohan, Gregory said, surprise flickering in his eyes. Your proxy is on file. Your presence isn't necessary. I felt it was, she said, meeting his gaze, given the gravity. I wanted to vote in person. Landon found his voice, a raw, ragged thing. Come to gloat? To watch them finish me off? She finally looked at him. Her gaze was not triumphant. It was analytical, like a scientist observing a failed experiment. I came to ensure the firm I helped build survives the catastrophe you created. Landon, this isn't about you and me. Not in this room. It's about fiduciary duty, a concept you seem to have confused with a personal checking account. You bitch. Landon started to rise, but Moss grabbed his arm. Mr. Prescott, please, the lawyer hissed. Eloin ignored the outburst. Gregory, you have my proxy. My vote on both motions is aye. Clearly, but before we vote, I believe the partnership should be fully informed of all material risks. She opened her portfolio. The Perth negligence is one thing, the client exodus another, but there is a new, developing risk, one that involves the Prescott family itself. Landon froze. What are you talking about? She pulled out a single photograph, sliding it to the center of the table. It showed a man in his 60s, florid-faced, leaving a building. The caption below read, Cornelius van der Waal exiting federal court. Manhattan. Landon's father-in-law. Chloe's father. He is currently under investigation by the SEC for wire fraud and by the FBI for ties to a known racketeering operation out of Jersey City. The indictment is expected within the month. A collective intake of breath. Arthur Brigham went pale. Diane Shaw leaned forward, her eyes sharp. This is irrelevant. Landon shouted. He has nothing to do with the firm, doesn't he? Eloin's voice was lethally quiet. Your wife, Chloe Prescott, Van der Waal, is the sole beneficiary of several trusts currently under scrutiny as potential shells for moving illicit funds. The wedding, the lavish gifts, the dowry you were so proud of, where do you think that money came from? Landon? And now you are legally, financially entwined with that family. The discovery process in a federal RICO case is thorough. They will subpoena your accounts, your communications. They will dig into every transaction, including the firm's retainers, looking for money trails. The New York Post is already working on a story. Prescott heir, law, firm dynasty tied to mob-light scandal. She let the words hang. The horror in the room was palpable. Legal malpractice was bad. A messy divorce was worse. But being on the periphery of a federal racketeering case, that was an existential threat. It would scare away every remaining client, trigger bar association investigations, and sink the firm without a trace. Gregory looked like he was going to be sick. You knew about this? I had my suspicions. The Van der Waal fortune always seemed nebulous. A discreet investigator confirmed it yesterday. She didn't glance at Landon, but the implication was clear. While you were picking out China, I was doing due diligence on your new family. This is beyond negligence. Diane Shaw breathed. This is a contagion. My client is not implicated in any of this. Moss stammered, his legal pad forgotten. This is guilt by association. In the court of public opinion, Counselor, Eloin said, association is everything, and this firm cannot afford the stench. The only way to quarantine the risk is to make a clean, public, and definitive break. The vote today isn't just about performance. It's about survival, removing Landon Prescott from the partnership, buying out his share at a discount that reflects this newfound catastrophic risk, and issuing a statement that the firm has severed all ties is the only way to possibly save what's left. She had framed it perfectly. It was no longer a punishment. It was a desperate, surgical amputation to save the patient. Gregory looked at the other partners. Brigham gave a faint, terrified nod. Shaw's jaw was set, her eyes on Landon, full of a new, colder fury. Halsey just looked resigned. We vote, Gregory said, his voice hollow. Motion 1. A vote of no confidence and removal of Landon Prescott as a senior equity partner. All in favor? Aye, said Eloin, clear and firm. Aye, muttered Brigham. Aye, snapped Shaw. Gregory closed his eyes for a second. Aye, the motion carries. Motion 2. Gregory continued, the words tasting of ash. Forced buyout of said partners share at a 30% discount. As specified, all in favor? The chorus of ayes was faster this time, laced with fear and self-preservation. The motion carries. Landon, You are hereby removed. Franklin Moss. All paperwork will be sent to you. You have 48 hours to clear your office. Security will escort you out. Landon Saturday, utterly still. The world had narrowed to a tunnel, at the end of which was Eloin's impassive face. He had lost everything: his wife, his money, his name, his legacy. He was a pariah, tied to a scandal, professionally extinct. Moss was tugging at his sleeve, saying something about appeals, about unfairness. Landon shook him off. He stood, his movements jerky. He looked at each partner in turn, finally letting his gaze rest on Eloin. You won, he said, the words barely audible. She met his stare, and for a fleeting second, he saw it, not pity, but a deep, glacial satisfaction, the satisfaction of a perfectly executed plan. No, Landon, she corrected him softly, for his ears only. You lost. There's a difference. He turned and walked out of the conference room, past the associates who didn't meet his eyes, past the receptionist who was already removing his name from the directory screen. The elevator doors closed on the life he had known, and on the sound of Gregory Vance already beginning to draft the damning press release that would seal his fate. The boardroom blitz was over. The rout was complete. The news broke at 10:17 a.m. A terse, 3-paragraph press release from Prescott Associates, circulated to legal trades and the business wires. It was a masterpiece of cold, corporate euthanasia. The partnership of Prescott Associates announces the amicable departure of Landon Prescott. Mutual agreement wishes him well in future endeavors. The New York Law Journal ran it verbatim. But the legal gossip blog, Above the Fold, had the real story by noon. The headline was brutal. Shareholder revolt boots Prescott after client exodus. Distractions cited. The comment section, mercifully hidden from Landon, was a feeding frenzy. He was in his now former office, a security guard hovering by the door as he dumped the contents of his desk into a cardboard banker's box. The framed photos dealt with Eloin at law school graduation, with his father at the club, a glossy shot of the Prescott Associates founding team that went face down, the Mont Blanc pen set, a gift from Gregory, the leather-bound legal tomes he'd never opened. It was the detritus of a life that was no longer his. His phone vibrated incessantly on the bare desk. Unknown numbers. Reporters. He let it go to voicemail until it was his father. He answered, bracing for the impact. Dad, what in God's name have you done? Charles Prescott's voice was a low, thunderous rumble, the sound of dynasty crumbling. I have the Journal in one line and a board member from the club on the other, asking me to clarify my son's association with organized crime. Organized crime. Landon, it's not true. It's just Chloe's father. I don't care about that grifter. His father roared. I care that you have managed, in the span of a few months, to torch a career it took generations to build the foundation for. You were a Prescottet, a firm, with your name on the door, and now you're a joke. A cautionary tale whispered about at the Yale Club. Landon sank into his chair, the security guard politely studying a painting in the hallway. Eloin did this. She set me up, and you walked right into it. Charles shot back. You handed her the rope, the pulleys, and the goddamn gallows, running off with a child, flaunting it. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? Did you think your penis was a substitute for a brain? The coarseness, the sheer disgust in his father's voice was a new low. She understands me. She's a gold-digging little strumpet from a family of thieves, and you've linked us to them. Charles took an audible, shuddering breath. Your mother is inconsolable. The Winthrops canceled for dinner. Amanda's husband is talking about reevaluating their trust structures, worried about contamination. You have embarrassed this family in a way that no amount of money can fix. Do you understand that? The one currency that matters here, and you've bankrupted us of it. Landon felt a hysterical laugh bubble in his throat. They weren't worried about him. They were worried about their invites. There standing. The currency. What do you want me to do? Dad, apologize to the Winthrops? I want you to fix it. Charles snarled. But you can't. Can you? You're useless. You were always the weak one. The pretty one. I thought the firm. Eloan. I thought she'd give you some backbone. Instead, you found someone even softer to lean on. Well, you're on your own now. Son, do not come to Greenwich. Do not call your mother. Handle your own mess. And for God's sake, get rid of that girl before she drags you into a federal indictment. The line went dead. Landon, Saturday, the phone limp in his hand. The void inside him expanding to fill the empty office. The empty future. The penthouse was a one-bedroom sublet in a bland doorman building on the Upper East Side, paid for with the last of his accessible cash. The move from the Park Avenue apartment had been a silent, shameful scramble. Chloe's father had sent a van for her things. Landon had used a TaskRabbit guy he found online. Chloe was there, waiting. She wasn't crying. She was packed. A single Louis Vuitton suitcase stood by the door, a stark symbol of abandonment. She was dressed for travel, in a sleek athleisure set that probably cost more than this month's rent. You saw the news, Landon said, his voice flat. Everyone saw the news. She replied, not looking at him. She was scrolling through her phone. My lawyer will be in touch. We'll file for an annulment. Fraud. You misrepresented your financial and professional standing. A cold fury cut through his numbness. Misrepresented? You're the one with a father facing RICO charges. You're the one who bled me dry with your demands. Finally, she looked at him, and the pretty, vapid mask was gone. Her eyes were hard, her mouth a contemptuous slash. Don't you dare. You pursued me. You told me you were a king. You promised me a castle. This, she gestured around the cramped beige room, is a broom closet. You're not a partner. You're a punchline. And now, thanks to you and your harpy ex-wife, my family's situation is front-page news. You've ruined everything. I've ruined it? He let out a disbelieving laugh. You were the catalyst. You and your tiara requests and your 500-person weddings. You have the financial literacy of a cocker spaniel, and you have the spine of a jellyfish. She fired back, stepping closer, her perfume suddenly cloying. A real man would have controlled his wife. A real man would have protected what was his. You just let her take it all. You're weak. I should have listened to my mother. She said you were all show, a Prescott in name only. Each word was a scalpel, expertly wielded. She'd been studying him, cataloging his insecurities. Get out, he whispered. The fight gone. Gladly. She picked up her suitcase. My lawyer's name is Felicity Graves. She's a shark. You'll be hearing from her. And Landon? She paused at the door, a final, pitying glance over her shoulder. Try not to call me. My new number will be private. It was a tactical error, on both our parts. She left, closing the door with a soft, definitive click. The silence she left behind was absolute. He was alone, truly, utterly alone. No wife, no family, no career, just the echoing condemnation of his father and the ghost of his ex-wife's triumph. Across town, the energy was of creation, not destruction. The entire floor of the Sterling Biotech building on Park Avenue was a hive of controlled chaos. Movers hauled in minimalist furniture. Tech teams snaked cables. And Anya Kozlov directed traffic with the precision of a field marshal. A large, brushed metal sign leaned against a wall, waiting to be mounted. Stratford Legal. I stood in what would be my office, the floor-to-ceiling windows offering a different, brighter view of the park. It was higher than my old office, a step up, in every sense. Marcus walked in, holding 2 glasses of champagne. He handed me one, a preview. The real stuff is for the opening next week. The guest list? Curated. Michael Sterling, Lorna Chun, Ben Henderson from Mercer, Old Man Wilkes, a few select judges, the senior associates, of course, and, he added, a sly smile, a reporter from the Journal who owes me a favor. The piece will be a new power in M.A. profile, not a whisper of the preceding drama. Perfect. We clinked glasses. The champagne was crisp. Perfect. A beginning, not an end. The fallout is comprehensive, Marcus reported, sipping his drink. Chloe Van der Waal's father was officially indicted this morning. 18 counts. The Post ran with Van der Waal web snags Prescott air. It's as salacious as we hoped. Landon is radioactive. No firm in the city will touch him. I hear he's looking at in-house roles in New Jersey. I didn't gloat. The taste was there, but it was a subtle, complex finish, like the wine. And the Prescotts? In full retreat. Charles canceled his membership at 2 clubs before they could vote him out. Amanda and her husband are wintering in Palm Beach early, indefinitely. The social scaffolding is collapsing. They're becoming ghosts. I looked out at the skyline, at the buildings that housed the people who had toasted my demise. Good. My phone buzzed. An email. The subject line. Firm stationery. Final proof. I opened it. The design was sleek. Bold. Eloin Stratford. ESQ. At the top. My name. My firm. My rules. It looks right, Marcus said, looking over my shoulder. It feels right. I corrected. A quiet certainty settling in my bones. The reckoning was over. The Prescott name was synonymous with scandal and failure. The Stratford name was being built, brick by brick, on competence, loyalty, and cold, hard victory. I took a final sip of champagne, the bubbles, a tiny celebration on my tongue. The past was a closed book, its final chapter written in a Connecticut drawing room and a Manhattan boardroom. The future was this empty, sun-drenched office, waiting to be filled, and for the first time in a long time, the silence didn't feel like absence. It felt like potential. It felt like peace. The penthouse of 800 Park Avenue wasn't just a party, it was a coronation. The low hum of conversation was a symphony of power. COs, federal judges, managing partners from rival firms, and the creme of the city's financial press. The air shimmered with the scent of lilies, champagne, and undisguised curiosity. Everyone was there to see her, Eloin Stratford, the woman who had vanished from Prescott Associates in a cloud of personal scandal and re-emerged, Phoenix-like, as the city's newest and most intriguing legal power broker. I stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows, a glass of Perrier Jouet in hand, surveying the room. The view was a tapestry of glittering Manhattan lights. My kingdom. Now, Anya Kozlov, radiant in a crimson dress, was deftly steering a group of tech investors toward David Park. Marcus Thorne held court by the bar, looking like a satisfied grandmaster. The entire team from Stratford Legal was there, not as employees, but as partners in this victory. Quite the gathering. Ellie, Gregory Vance's voice, hesitant beside me, was a note from a past life. I turned, offering a small, professional smile. Gregory, thank you for coming. It means a lot. He looked older, diminished outside the fortress of his old firm, Prescott Associates, now simply the Vance Group after a swift, painful rebrand, was a shadow of its former self. Had to see it for myself, he said, his eyes scanning the thriving crowd. You built an A-list roster in 6 months. Sterling, Mercer, Wilkes, even snagged the Carrington IPO from under Fletcher Lowe's nose. How? I returned their calls. I said simply, taking a sip, and I did the work. It's a novel concept. I'm told. A faint, pained smile touched his lips. I deserved that. He cleared his throat. I came to apologize for not seeing it, for not stopping it before it burned down half of what we'd built. The apology was unexpected and insufficient. You saw it. Gregory, I said, my voice cool. You just calculated that the damage from Landon's behavior was less than the damage of confronting a Prescott. You were wrong. I simply corrected the math. He flinched, but nodded. I was. And you did. He raised his glass, slightly. To your formidable correction. I touched my glass to his. The crystal pingatiny. Final period on that sentence of my life. He moved away, absorbed by the crowd. A relic from a closed excavation. He looks like he's eaten a bad oyster. A warm, familiar voice said. Michael Sterling appeared at my elbow, grinning. I do love a party with a side of schadenfreude. The canapés are excellent. By the way, only the best for my first and favorite client. I said, the genuine warmth in my voice a stark contrast to my exchange with Gregory. First and favorite. I like that. Carrington might be bigger, but I was here first. He leaned in, his tone shifting to business. Lorna's already talking to your Anya about the German expansion. We're thinking Stuttgart. Your new regulatory team is frighteningly efficient. That's the idea. Michael, frighteningly efficient. I saw Lorna Chun across the room, locked in intense conversation with Anya. A stack of metaphorical paperwork already forming between them. It was the best possible sight. The party swirled on. I was pulled into a dozen conversations. Congratulations. Veiled pitches for business. Genuine well wishes from a few who had quietly cheered me on. I accepted it all with the same poised grace. I was no longer the wronged wife. I was Stratford, of Stratford Legal. The narrative had been rewritten. By me, 20 blocks downtown, in a sterile, corporate extended stay apartment in the financial district. The party was a silent, glowing rectangle on a wall-mounted TV. Landon Prescott sat on a stiff IKEA sofa, a bottle of cheap bourbon on the scuffed coffee table before him. The news channel was running a business segment, and the buzz in legal circles tonight is all about Stratford Legal's star-studded opening gala. The firm, founded by Eloan Stratford just months after her dramatic split from Prescott Associates, has already snatched up a roster of blue-chip clients. The screen showed a fleeting, dazzling shot of the penthouse, of me laughing with Michael Sterling, looking vibrant and utterly in command. Landon took a long, burning pull from the bottle. The bitterness wasn't just from the liquor. He'd spent the day in a windowless conference room in Secaucus, New Jersey, being interviewed for an associate general counsel role at a middling pharmaceutical company. The hiring manager, a man 10 years his junior, had condescendingly referred to the unfortunate publicity of his past. The salary was less than his old annual bonus. His phone buzzed, a number from Greenwich. His mother. He let it go to voicemail. The messages were all variations on the same theme. When will this blow over? Your father is still so angry. The Aldridges asked about you at bridge. So awkward. Another buzz. An email. His divorce lawyer. A harried-looking man from a storefront in Queens with the final annulment papers from Chloe, based on fraudulent inducement. She was walking away clean. Her family's scandal, somehow, making her seem more a victim of his deceit. The final irony. He was to sign were highlighted. He had nothing left to fight with. He looked back at the TV. The segment was over, replaced by a weather report. The glimpse of that other world, the crystal, the laughter, the effortless power that was gone. It felt like watching life on another planet. His planet now was this beige box, the sour taste of failure, and the echoing silence of his own spectacular ruin. Back at 800 Park, the crowd was beginning to thin. I stood on the private terrace adjoining my office, the spring night air cool on my skin. The roar of the city was a distant, comforting rumble. The door slid open behind me. The last of the stragglers are gone. Marcus said, joining me at the railing. He held out a small, cream-colored envelope. This was couriered over during the party. For you. I took the liberty of vetting it. It's clean. I took it. My name was written in simple, Elegant script. No return address. I opened it. Inside was a single, heavyweight card. On it, printed in classic typeface, was a line of Latin. Fiat Justitia, RUAT Coelum. Beneath it, in Marcus's own precise hand, was the translation, "Let justice be done, though the heavens fall." A slow smile spread across my face. I looked at Marcus, a little dramatic. "Don't you think? Sentimentality doesn't suit me," he said, a rare, full smile touching his own lips. "But accuracy does." And it was done. The heavens, for a certain family at least, have well and truly fallen. He pulled a final, sealed document from his inside pocket. "The other matter is concluded. The sale of the Hamptons' property closed today. The proceeds have been wired as you directed. The donation to the Women in Law Fellowship Fund is already generating thank you notes." I nodded, looking out at the skyline. That chapter was not just closed, it had been repurposed, its energy redirected toward something that mattered. The past was no longer a prison or a weapon. It was simply a closed ledger. "And him?" I asked. "The pronoun enough." "Secaucus," Marcus said, the word itself a verdict. "A non-roll at a non-company. He's a ghost. The Prescotts are in social quarantine. The Van der Waal trial starts next month. The narrative is firmly set. You're the brilliant founder. He's the footnote in a tabloid scandal. It's over, Ellie." I took a deep breath, the clean, high-altitude air filling my lungs. It's over. The words didn't bring the wild triumph I might have once imagined. They brought a profound, deep-seated peace, the quiet that comes after a long and exhausting battle, when you're finally safe behind your own walls, on your own terms. "It's not over, Marcus," I said quietly, turning the Latin card over in my fingers before tucking it into my jacket pocket, a talisman of a finished war. "It's just the beginning, the real beginning." I looked back at the glittering expanse of my city, my future, stretching out infinitely before me. The reckoning was done. The game I had been forced to play was won. Now, I was free to play my own, and I was just getting started.